This is a video tutorial on replacing the screen of an HP Envy15J series touchscreen laptop. With this laptop, the easiest way to replace the screen is to remove the whole lid from the laptop, which means taking the bottom case off of the laptop. To do this, we're going to flip the laptop over and remove the battery, and then we're going to take off the panel which covers the hard drive, RAM and wireless card, as there are screws under here which we'll need to remove. I'm going to go ahead and take out the hard drive, or in this case SSD, and put it to one side. Now we've done that, we're going to use a spudger or pry tool to just lift up the clip which is holding in the cable that connects the hard drive, so that we can remove this cable and also set that to one side. The next step is to just remove all of the visible screws from the laptop. So there's a hidden screw just covered with a little sticky plastic disc here. I'm just using a pin to get the disc off of that and then remove the screw as with the rest. There are also a few much smaller screws in the battery compartment. These also need to be removed, but be careful not to lose them. They are very small. And the final two screws to get the bottom case off this laptop are hidden under the front 2 feet. Here you can see me lifting up the feet from the left hand side, but having removed the feet, I think it would be easier to try and pry them up from the right hand side. Once they're off, the screws, just like the rest, need to be removed. So now I've got all of the screws after a couple of attempts. The bottom case should just lift off, leaving the internals of the laptop exposed. Firstly, we're going to disconnect the data cable for the display. This is similar to the hard drive cable we removed earlier. Just use a pry tool to lift up the flap and then the cable should just come out of the socket. This is the power cable for the screen, removed also. And then the 2 wireless antenna cables need to be removed. These just disconnect from the wireless card and then need to be pulled back so that they're no longer attached to the base of the laptop. The next step, now that we've removed all the cables, is to remove the 4 screws which are holding the hinges to the case of the laptop. Now the hinges can be gently pried upwards away from the case of the laptop, and this will allow us to separate the lid from the main assembly. These can be a bit stiff, but they will come up, just be patient. And now you can see that the main assembly of the laptop can be removed. Now there are another 2 stickers on the edge of the screen at the bottom which need to be peeled up so that we can access the screws underneath them. A pin works well for this, or a pair of really sharp tweezers like I'm using here. Now we can go ahead and take out the screws. There are 4 of them that I remove here, but in hindsight I think it's only the outer 2 screws which really need to be removed in order to do this. But there's no harm in removing the other 2 as well. Now we can again use the pry tool to gently prise apart the glass bezel from the lid of the laptop. This can be a bit tricky, and as you'll see in a minute, you need to be careful around the top edge of the bezel, as this is also hiding some very small cables which connect to the digitizer, and also the webcam electronics are located there too. Here I'm just pointing out the cable that connects to the touchscreen digitizer. You need to be careful when you're prising off the bezel as not to damage this in any way. Once you've got it all loose, you can just gently pull that cable away from the board. It should just come free, and then it's good to go ahead and remove the touch glass and bezel from the lid. Now we can remove the 4 screws holding the screen down. These are located near the corners of the screen. The screen now should just lift up. You want to be careful to lift it up, pivoting near the hinges, as this is where the main cable connects to the screen. Removing this involves peeling back the sticker that HP have put there, which is holding the cable in place. Now we've got the new screen from laptopscreen.co.uk. So we're going to line it up in position and connect the display cable first. Once the connector's seated, the sticker can be reattached to make sure the cable doesn't come out. Now we can just lay the screen back down into the lid, and we're ready to reinstall the screws that are holding the screen in. Now we can peel back the protective film. The next step is to get the glass digitizer and gently bend up the digitizer PCB. This will make it much easier to reattach the cable when we refit the digitizer in a minute. So get the lid with the new screen and place the digitizer back over the top. Here you can see we've got the PCB bent upwards, and we can reattach the cable to the digitizer. This can be a bit tricky. I'm using my tweezers here to make sure I get it fully seated. But once we've got that in, we're just going to go ahead and bend the printed circuit board back down, out of the way, and now we can snap the whole assembly back together, and that's pretty much it. Obviously the screws and stickers need to go back together, and the whole laptop needs to be reassembled, but that's it for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful.